Welcome back, everyone. Anybody that knows Lake George, I don't think there's any argument here. The most incredible place on Lake George is Silver Bay. And I'm talking about the YMCA Silver Bay campus. And joining me today is Steve Tam, who has this terrible job of having to be the CEO of this place. You know, there are jobs and then there are jobs.
That's
Steve.
true, that's true.
I got news for you. I just want to set this up a little bit more. This place was founded turn of the century, like 1902, and really holds true to the value system of the YMCA, which is mind, spirit, and body. It's youth development, it's healthy living, and it's social responsibility. That hasn't changed since 1902. And if you think about it, right, Steve, we could use a little dose of that in this day and age.
Oh yeah, I think so.
And having been here, my wife and I come here during the summer, it just embodies that. And it's really remarkable, it's unique, and this place is absolutely exceptional. And you'll see some pictures throughout the course of this interview. Steve, we were here during the summer. We had an interview with Lindsay about the concert series in the auditorium. My wife and I attended one of them, and we're still talking about it.
Oh, that's great. That's
just when we pulled in today, we thought, oh, remember during the summer, you know, we were here. But you took a very bold move in recognizing that one of the key things that everybody's concerned about on the lake is wastewater. Keeping this water clean, keeping this lake healthy.
Right.
And tell me about this. Let's go back a couple of years.
Okay.
Tell me how this started.
Yeah, so if we go back just a few years ago when we were looking at our redeveloping and modernizing our campus here at Silver Bay, there were certain steps that we felt we really needed to take. One was relocating our parking area that was located close to the lake, and we've done that. We did that in 2016. And we have a septic system, our old wastewater system, which dates back about 70, 75 years at that time. And we knew that, well, like most systems that are 70, 75 years, it's getting to the end of its life cycle. And so we proactively started to look at other solutions. And we ended up with a system called an MBR, a microbiofilm reactor. And while it's tried and true tested technology, it's relatively still cutting edge. And if you're familiar with a septic system, basically your waste goes into the soils and the soils break down the waste over time, et cetera. Well, you could imagine with a campus our size, there's quite a bit of wastewater that we generate. And one of the things we wanted to make sure is that we were setting the standard or a new standard on Lake George and lake protection. We have a mile of shoreline here and 700 acres. We're probably, I'm guessing, the largest landowner on the lake, public landowner, if you like. And so we set about in partnering with a local organization called Cedarwood Engineering, and we came up with this microbiofilm reactor. And we partnered with the DEC to see what they thought of it. This was working up in the northern part of the state with really good results. And basically the way it works is that when the wastewater is making its way into the system, there's a building and some tanks that are in there, is we add some oxygen to that mixture that comes down. It goes through a very fine metal filtration, and then there's biology added, much like you would find in yogurt, you know, those good cultures. And that breaks down all that water, that wastewater, and what comes out, and you may have seen the picture in some of the local newspapers, where I'm holding a bottle of water and a beaker of treated water, and they are virtually the same, right? Nice and clear. And so what we do then with that clear water is we have some sand areas, an infiltration pit is what it's referred to, and we put that water into that infiltration pit. It's sand, it's about 65 feet worth of sand that's in there. If we were not in the Lake George Basin, which has the highest regulation in the state, we could use it to water the lawns. That's how clear it is. It's the same quality as rainwater. And so we're pretty excited about that. We're pretty excited about it.
Well, for sure. And if you want to know how much we're talking about here, I think it was like 45,000 gallons a day.
Yeah,
this is a big campus, man.
Yeah,
You know?
during our peak periods in the summer. So there's 4 major wastewater systems here on the lake. There's of course Lake George Village.
That's right.
There's Bolton, and then there's Hague, and then there's ourselves. And we're about Hague, the town of Hague and Silver Bay are about the same when we're running at our peak. The system cost us about $3.5 million, and we took a leap of faith by making that proactive investment. Sadly, and maybe you can help me, maybe your viewers can help me with this, is that we're out of those 4 systems, we're the only one who hasn't received any state money. So we've been fundraising for it, and that's been, you talked about a hard job, fundraising for wastewater is not the easiest thing to do.
You mean it's not sexy?
No, it's not just, there's naming rights available for someone who wants to step up. We're still short about $2 million.
Well, I can tell that Andrew's already thinking of a
Oh,
name,
okay,
so we're going to
well,
have to
good.
be careful. There's another part to this,
Yes.
the wetland.
Yes.
And explain that to us.
Yeah, so again, I mentioned that we're about a mile of shoreline, and with the large campus and the mountain to the west of us, obviously all that rainwater wants to make its way towards the lake. And we have some buildings in between, and we have 2 public roads that cut through our campus, Route 9N and Silver Bay Road. And all that rainwater and all the contaminants that one would find on the road, again, would normally make their way into the lake. And we work closely, it was actually with 7 government agencies all together at the end of the day, to design a system where the stormwater is being captured, and then just before it hits the lake, it makes kind of a quick right turn and ends up in what's referred to as a constructed wetland. And so that was just completed in the fall of 2019. There's some plants that have been planted, and that wetland will start to develop and mature on its own. The wetland specialists tell us it'll take about 24 to 36 months for those plants to properly find its own equilibrium, along with some wildlife. We had some blue heron in there already this past fall, which was really pretty neat.
That's right.
And so that rainwater will then make its way in there, and any contaminants that are in there will bind with the soils, the natural soils, and start to break down. The plants will help it break down the soils, and the natural processes will break it down. What would have happened in the past, and you think about Route 9N, you've got salt from the winter time, you've got all the fluids that cars like to leak on the highway. That would have just ran down straight into the lake. Now it's being captured in that constructed wetland, and it's just better for the lake. It's better for all of us.
You know what Steve's referring to here, of course, is if you're taking the lake road from Bolton up to Hague, it cuts right through the Silver Bay property. And to the west of it, of course, it slopes up the mountain. So that is a complete runoff that comes right down through the property, similar to our place in Hague, Steve. Comes right down through it and heads right to the lake. And again, you think about its discharges from automobiles. It could be any number of different things, road salt and whatever. And now they've made the move to create this wetland. You touched on one thing, because we have a blue heron that hangs out at our dock. Okay. It's really something to see some of the other things that happen by producing the wetland, plant life, bird life, and whatever. Think about what that does.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things we've been talking about with the Lake George Association, Walt Lender, for example, who I believe you know, is we're going to be putting some educational signage around there. They're going to be partnering with us, providing the signage. We're working on the locations where it'll be, and there'll be an educational opportunity for folks who are walking around the wetland to understand the processes and to watch what the natural development is, what kind of wildlife ends up establishing itself there, amphibians and birds, etc. We've had ducks and geese in there, and the blue heron, as I mentioned, that was making its way in there and finding something to eat. We're not quite sure yet what it was eating, but it was finding something to eat already.
And if anybody knows how the blue heron attacks, they just attack. You don't even see them move. And then next thing you know, they've got a fish or something in their mouth. I can't encourage you enough to you have to come up to Silver Bay. There are all kinds of programs to help families experience Silver Bay at all different price levels. I've noticed that they're so creative in the way that they just extend their hand to say, look, you want to come here, we'll find a way for you to be here. There are all kinds of educational programs for kids, all throughout the summer especially, I know. Ticonderoga and Hague school systems and other school systems, you see them all over the campus here. They have an auditorium here that your jaw will hit the floor, and they're going to have a summer concert series again, right?
Yes, indeed. We'll be announcing shortly who'll be coming, and you may recall last year we even were able to have some principal dancers, 6 principal dancers from the New York Ballet come up, and maybe a little bit of a teaser is we're pretty close to finalizing an agreement that they'll be back again. More details to follow, but they'll be back in summer 2020.
Oh, you have to follow this. What he's referring to, of course, my wife and I attended. That was the principal dancers from ABT. Yeah. And we've been to hundreds of ballet performances. It was so intimate. It was so beautiful in that auditorium that night that we're still talking about it. So
well, that's good to hear.
Steve, just remarkable. And you'll see some of the shots throughout the interview here. But for taking the initiative to help protect the lake, mind, body, spirit, right?
thank you.
That'll never get old.
No, never.
Great. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my pleasure.
We'll be back again this summer.
That sounds like a plan. Thank you.
You're welcome. See this interview again. You can head to our website, looktvonline.com.